everyone. I hope you've had a great week. Today we're going to walk through lessons 133 to 136. So let's get started. This week you're going to need your lessons manual, the student worksheet book, the math card games manual with the game cards. You'll need the geometry solids, the fraction pieces, and the 4-in-1 ruler. This week, your child will review geometry, measurement, and data, and we will complete 2 assessments covering those topics. Let's get started by turning to lesson 133. If your lesson manual was printed in 2017 or before, there is a correction for this lesson. So make sure you make those changes prior to teaching this lesson. Take a look at the first paragraph under the explanation section on the first page of the lesson. It says lessons 133, 135, 137, and 139 are review lessons for the end of the year assessment. If preferred, these 4 reviews may be taught sequentially, and then the 4 assessments may be presented as a final single test. Now, that being said, for these overview videos, I'm going to be working through these lessons in order. Now take a look at the section called Polygon Review. Now this table that you see on that top of that section is actually from lesson 74 and worksheet 43. So you'll want to go ahead and get out that worksheet 43 kind of to work through this chart so your child can see the shapes, or you can put the shapes on the whiteboard so your child can understand what shapes you're talking about. Either way will work. You'll also want to make sure that your child knows these shapes, their names, and understand the regular polygons and non-regular polygons, the concept of symmetry, parallel lines, sides, and angles for the assessment. Now, under the table, there are questions that you will ask your child about some of those topics. If you need to review regular polygons and quadrilaterals, you can review lesson 74. Now take a look at the section called Geometry Review. You will need to get out your geometry solids, but you will really only use 2 specific shapes, both the cube and the square pyramid. Using those 2 shapes, you're going to ask questions about the faces and the names of those shapes. It is very important, hint, 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 that your child knows the names of these shapes for the assessment. On the top of the second page of the lesson, you're going to give your child worksheet 90, and your child will draw a 9x2 rectangle and then draw a second rectangle with the same area. Now remember, area is side times side. If you need to review this concept with your child, you can look at lesson 109. Now take a look at the section called fraction chart. For this activity, your child is going to take all of the fraction pieces and assemble the fraction chart as shown in the middle of the second page of the lesson. Then you're going to ask questions about fractions. For review for fractions, you can take a look at lessons 66, 69, 124, 125, 126, and 127. Then you're going to have your child do problem 2 from worksheet 90. If your child needs to review that concept, you can look at lesson 122. Now, there is not a math card game listed for this lesson, so you're going to want to focus on a game that might help prepare your child for the assessments coming up. So if they're struggling with some element in arithmetic, you'll definitely want to play some games for that. All right, well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 134. This is the geometry assessment lesson. So you're going to find their end of year assessment pages, test pages after the math journal pages in their student worksheet book. As always, as I always do, I'm going to provide you the lessons that you can review if you want your child to review the sections that they missed. That being said, the point of this assessment is not for perfection. You will want to see understanding from your child. Expect that your child is going to miss a few problems, and that's okay. However, if your child misses an entire section or does not seem to understand a concept, then you're going to want to review that lesson and maybe cover that topic a little bit more in depth. Also, make sure that you build the cube and the square pyramid prior to giving the assessment to your child. You'll build that from the geometry panels. Well, let's take a look at the lessons that you can review. So for this assessment, if your child struggled with problems 1 through 9, which is the table, go ahead and review lesson 74. For problems 10 through 16, which are questions about polygons, again, look at lesson 74. For problems 17 through 20, which are the shapes problems or questions, review lesson 132. For problems 21 to 23, which are the rectangles, review lesson 109. For problem 4, which is the fraction chart, take a look at lesson 66. For problems 25 through 27, which is dividing the square, you can take a look at lesson 62. For problems 28 through 30, which are circling figures, review lesson 122. Okay, well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 135. If your lesson manual was printed in 2015 or before, there is a correction for this lesson. So make sure you make those changes prior to teaching it. Also, if you've purchased the electronic worksheets in 2015 or before, there is a correction for worksheet 99 or 91. Again, make sure that that change is made prior to giving your child the worksheet. We're going to start off by giving your child worksheet 91 and the 4-in-1 ruler. And your child will begin the first chart by estimating the length of each of those lines. They're going to put their estimation or their guess down on the chart, and then they're going to use their 4-in-1 ruler to measure the actual length, and they're going to put that measurement down. Those answers are listed in the lesson manual. Then your child is going to go ahead and calculate the difference between their guess and the actual measurement of the actual length of those lines. Now, if your child needs to review how to read a ruler, you might want to review lesson 108. After your child completes that chart, you're going to ask them questions about measurements. If your child struggles with any of those measurements, here are the lessons you can review for the specific measurements. If your child needs to review centimeters, go ahead and review lesson 102. For inches, review lesson 103. For feet, review lessons 104 and 105. For yards, review lesson 104. And for meters, review lesson 106. Then on the second page of the lesson, you're going to have your child match the time with the clock, the digital time with the analog clock. If your child needs to review telling time or any of these elements, go ahead and look at lessons 80 through 84. In the middle of the second page of the lesson, your child is going to review line plots. And if needed, you can review lessons 112, 113, and 114. The math card game listed for this lesson is Who Has the Most Money, which you've played this game previously, and there is also a blog for this game. Now, playing this game is going to prepare your child for the money section of the assessment. Well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 136. If your lesson manual was printed in 2015 or before, there is a correction for this lesson. So again, make sure you make those changes prior to teaching these lessons. As always, I'm going to go ahead and provide you a list of lessons to review if needed. However, remember, you're looking for understanding, not a perfect score. If your child struggled with problems 1 through 8, which is the table, take a look at lesson 108. If your child struggled with problems 9 through 13, which are the types of measurements, you can look at, for centimeters, you can look at lesson 102. For inches, lesson 103. For feet, lessons 104 and 105. For yards, lesson 104, and for meters, lesson 106. For problems 14 and 15, which is the next table, take a look at lesson 105. Now, this is an application on measurements. There is also a similar problem in lesson 105 on that one. For problems 16 and 17, which are questions about measurement, take a look at lesson 108. For problems 18 through 21, which are the clocks problems, take a look at lessons 80 through 84. For problems 22 through and 23, which cover the money problems, look at lessons 94 through 99. For problems 24 through 28, which are the line plots, look at lessons 112, 113, and 114. Well, that's it for the week. If you have any questions or concerns about a lesson, or if your child is struggling with something, give us a call or email us. We are here to help. I look forward to seeing you next week for one last overview video covering lessons 137 to 140. Have a great week, everybody.